My name's Derek, and this story happened the summer I turned 19. Back then, I thought I was invincible. I'd just finished my first year of college and a couple of friends, and I decided to do what every movie tells you not to do: go camping deep in the woods. We lived in northern Georgia, where summer nights are hot, sticky, and buzzing with cicadas. My buddy Mark swore he knew the perfect camping spot near a lake that wasn't on any of the official maps. He said he and his uncle used to fish there all the time. Remote, quiet, untouched. It sounded perfect. Looking back now, that word, untouched, should have been my first warning. The three of us, me, Mark, and Tyler, packed up our old sedan with a tent, sleeping bags, and enough junk food to give us heart attacks. The drive was about 2 hours, and by the time we reached the dirt road that led to the lake, the sun was already dipping low, turning the sky that deep orange you only get in late July. The dirt road was worse than I expected. Branches scraped the sides of Mark's car, and at one point we almost got stuck in a muddy patch. When we finally reached a small clearing near the lake, it was nearly dark. Fireflies floated above the water, and the reflection of the moon rippled on the surface. It was beautiful in that eerie, nobody else is around kind of way. We set up camp fast, laughing and swatting mosquitoes, and by 10 p.m. we had a fire going. It was one of those summer nights where the air feels heavy, like it's pressing down on you. The only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the occasional splash from the lake. Around midnight, we were still awake, swapping ghost stories and daring each other to swim. Tyler was in the middle of a ridiculous story about some haunted gas station when we all froze at the same time. Somewhere across the lake, we heard a whistle. It wasn't a bird or a random noise. It was 3 sharp whistles, like someone trying to get a dog's attention. We went silent. Mark whispered, "Did you guys hear that?" Before I could even answer, it came again. 3 whistles. The hair on my arm stood up. We were in the middle of nowhere. No houses, no roads, no other campsites. There was no reason anyone should have been out there, especially in the pitch black of a muggy summer night. "Maybe it's just some night hunter," Tyler said, though he didn't sound convinced. "Like, calling a dog?" Mark shook his head. "Dude, there's no way. My uncle said no one comes out here anymore. We're like 10 miles from the main road." We stared across the dark lake for a long time, trying to spot any movement. But there was nothing. Just the sound of frogs and insects filling the silence between those unsettling whistles. After about 10 minutes with no more sounds, we convinced ourselves it was nothing. Maybe an echo from somewhere far off. We eventually crawled into the tent, leaving the fire to die out on its own. I wish I could say I fell asleep right away. Instead, I lay there sweating in my sleeping bag, listening to every little rustle outside. The lake lapped softly against the shore, and a few bugs tapped against the nylon of the tent. I was on the edge of drifting off when I heard footsteps. They were soft, deliberate, crunching over dead leaves just a few feet from our tent. I froze. My first thought was that it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or a deer. But then I heard the whistle. 3 short blasts, right outside our tent. I stopped breathing. My eyes darted to Mark and Tyler, who were wide awake now, staring at me in the dim glow of Mark's phone screen. Nobody moved. Then we heard it, the sound of the tent zipper moving slightly. I don't think I've ever felt fear like that in my life. Every muscle in my body locked up. Tyler whispered, barely audible, Did you lock the car?" Mark shook his head slowly. We didn't speak after that. For what felt like hours, we just sat there, paralyzed, while whoever or whatever circled our tent. Occasionally, the soft crunch of leaves would stop, and we'd hear that haunting little whistle like they were mocking us. At some point in the dead of night, exhaustion overtook terror. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up to sunlight streaming through the thin nylon walls. Mark was already outside, pale as a ghost. "Guys, you need to see this," he said. We stumbled out into the muggy morning air, and my stomach dropped. Around our tent, in the dirt and pine needles, were barefoot human footprints. Dozens of them. Whoever had been there circled us again and again. Some prints led into the trees. Others went down to the lake, but none came back out of the water. We packed up in record time and never went back to that lake again. To this day, I can't stand hearing someone whistle at night. My name's Jenna, and this happened in the summer of 2018. I live in a small rural town in northern Michigan where summer nights can be as peaceful as they are unnerving. If you've ever driven country roads after dark, you know the feeling. It's quiet in a way that makes every sound stand out. The hum of the engine, the soft hiss of tires on cracked pavement, the occasional thud of a bug hitting the windshield. That summer, I was 23 and working a late shift at a diner off the highway. I'd get out around 11 p.m., and the drive home was usually uneventful, 30 minutes down winding forest roads with barely any traffic. I liked the solitude at first. There was something calming about driving under a blanket of stars with the windows down, smelling the pine trees and warm summer air. Until one night in July. I just finished closing up and headed out a little later than usual, around 11:45. The night was sticky and warm, that kind of stillness that makes your own breathing sound too loud. I rolled my windows up and cranked the AC as I turned onto Pine Hollow Road, a 2-lane stretch that cut straight through miles of thick forest. Halfway down that road, I noticed something unusual. A single car was parked on the shoulder. Its hazard lights were blinking, casting an orange glow against the tree trunks. As I got closer, I slowed down, thinking maybe someone needed help. That's what people do out there. You check on each other, because there's no cell service in Pine Hollow. But the closer I got, the stranger it felt. The car was an old white sedan, beat up and dusty, like it hadn't been washed in months. Both front doors were wide open, but no one was standing outside. No one waved me down. I slowed to a crawl, peering through the passenger side window as I passed. The interior was dark, but I thought I saw a child's car seat in the back. That's when I noticed movement in the woods. To my right, just past the tree line, I caught the outline of a man. He was standing perfectly still, maybe 15 feet from the road, partially hidden by the pines. And he was facing me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and instinctively pressed the gas. I didn't want to believe what I'd seen, but as my headlights passed over the trees, I spotted him clearly for a split second. He was barefoot, wearing filthy jeans and no shirt, his skin pale and almost gray in the beam of my headlights. And he was smiling. Not a normal smile, a wide teeth-baring grin that sent an icy wave through my body. I drove faster, heart hammering. I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights behind me. But the only light on that road was the distant pulse of those blinking hazards disappearing into the dark. I thought that was the end of it. But a few minutes later, I had to slow down again. Up ahead, another car was parked on the shoulder. This one had its trunk open. I barely slowed this time. Something deep in my gut screamed trap. My headlights swept over it quickly, and I caught just enough detail to make my stomach turn. There was a person crouched in the trunk. I couldn't tell if they were hiding or waiting, but the posture was wrong. Their arms were braced on the edge, and their head was cocked to the side, like a dog studying prey. I pressed the gas and didn't let off. My little Honda roared down that empty road, and I kept my eyes locked forward. I didn't even dare to check the rearview mirror. When I finally made it home, I parked in the driveway with my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the key to kill the engine. I ran inside, locked every door, and spent the night checking out the windows every 5 minutes. The next morning, I called the sheriff's department. I tried to explain what I'd seen: 2 abandoned cars, strange people in the woods, but I could tell they didn't take me seriously. But later that day, a deputy called back. They'd sent a patrol down Pine Hollow and found nothing. No cars, no footprints, no sign anyone had been there. It's been 7 years since that night, and I've never taken that road again after dark. And sometimes, when the summer air is heavy and still, I remember that man's grin in the trees, and wonder how many cars he waited for that night. My name's Eric, and the story I'm about to tell happened when I was 16, during one of the hottest summers I can remember. I grew up in a small Tennessee town where there wasn't much to do, especially in the summer. My friends and I spent most days riding bikes, hanging out at the gas station that sold the best crushed ice, and sneaking into this old quarry that had filled up with water decades ago. Everyone just called it the swimming hole. And yeah, it wasn't exactly legal to be there, but it was a local tradition. The quarry was surrounded by dense woods, with a single dirt trail leading to a steep drop-off where the brave kids would jump in. The water was deep, black, and cold, even on the hottest July afternoons. It felt endless, like it could swallow you whole if it wanted to. One Friday night, my best friend Ryan convinced me and 2 other guys, Josh and Caleb, to go for a night swim. I hesitated at first. I'd been to the quarry dozens of times during the day, but never at night. Something about that still water under a dark sky gave me chills. But being a dumb teenager, I didn't want to seem scared. So I grabbed my bike and followed them. The woods were alive with the usual summer night sounds: crickets, distant frogs, the occasional hoot of an owl. By the time we reached the trail to the quarry, the moon was high, and the water below was just a black, mirror-like oval surrounded by shadows. We tossed our bikes in the brush, stripped down to our shorts, and jumped in. The shock of the cold water stole my breath for a second, but once I adjusted, it was almost fun. Ryan splashed me. Josh yelled echoes into the night, and for a while, it felt like any other summer adventure. Until Caleb said, "Guys, someone's watching us." I spun in the water, sending ripples across the moonlit surface. On the far side of the quarry, partially hidden behind a tree, was a figure. At first, I thought it might have been a trick of the moonlight. But no, there was definitely someone standing there. Tall, motionless, just watching. Probably some hiker, Ryan said, though his voice wavered. Or a game warden. But even as he said it, the figure stepped closer to the edge of the water. I felt an instinctive chill that had nothing to do with the cold. The person didn't speak, didn't wave, didn't move like someone who was startled to see a group of kids trespassing. They just crouched down at the water's edge, and then, with a quiet splash, slid into the water. We all froze. Brian whispered, "He's swimming toward us, isn't he?" He was. The black water rippled, and faint moonlight caught the top of a bald head moving silently toward the center of the quarry, toward us. Panic surged through me. We didn't wait to find out what he wanted. The 4 of us swam for the ledge where we'd left our bikes. My arms burned. My chest ached, but adrenaline pushed me forward. As I reached the rocks, I glanced back. The man was closer now. His face barely broke the surface, just his wide, unblinking eyes staring at us as he glided through the water. I scrambled up the rocks, cutting my hands on the rough stone. Ryan and Josh were right behind me, but Caleb slipped, screaming as he fell back into the water. That was the first time the man made a sound. A wet, guttural laugh. I reached down and grabbed Caleb's arm, hauling him up with Ryan's help. The four of us sprinted barefoot through the woods, branches slapping our faces and arms. I didn't dare look back. We didn't stop running until we burst out of the tree line, grabbed our bikes, and pedaled like our lives depended on it. The whole ride back, none of us spoke. Our lungs burned, our legs screamed, and all I could think about was those silent eyes in the black water. The next day, Ryan swore it had to be some random lunatic or maybe a drifter living in the woods. But when we went back in the daylight, we found something that made my blood run cold. Near the edge of the water, where we'd seen him crouch, was a pair of waterlogged boots, and a soaked denim jacket laid neatly on the rocks. We never saw the man again, but we also never went back to that swimming hole, day or night. And to this day, I can't swim in dark water without feeling like someone is just below the surface, watching,